Hey everybody, it's Will with Social Work Test Prep here with some very basic beginnings about how best to prepare for the exam and what to expect. This is all taken from the Social Work Test Prep study guide, which you get free when you create an account on the site. Let's take a look. So the ASWB administers the licensing exam for all of the US and Canada. People sometimes write to say, oh, I'm taking the exam in Texas. Is that the same? Yes, it's all the same across the country. Within the ASWB, there's 4 different exams: bachelor's, master's, advanced generalist, which is not all that common, and the clinical. And you can go to the ASWB website, aswb.org, to get outlines. There's a lot of stuff shared between all those 4 exam levels, but things get a little bit more complicated and more clinical, more DSM based as you work your way up through the levels. The license that you earn depends on the state you're in. You can check with your state board to find out what you're aiming for, but you probably know already. It's the LSW, LMSW, LGSW, which you get with the advanced generalist, or the LCSW. Those are the most common ones. So those are the very basic basics. Also basic, so it's a 4-hour test. That's a long sit. And the exam lasts for 170 questions. They're all multiple choice. Something that is confusing to people, but needn't be too confusing. 150 of those 170 questions actually count toward your score. For the other 20, the test people, the people who write the tests, are trying out questions. If they're too easy, they throw them out. If they're too hard, they throw them out, or they rewrite them. You never know which ones that you're facing are actually tester questions. So the way you can make that work for you, if you hit an exam item that seems especially impossible, you take your best guess and just brush it off. Just tell yourself that one probably didn't count, and then move on to the next. 4 hours, 170 multiple choice questions. This can be overwhelming as you're trying to prepare. If you look at those outlines, they potentially can cover just about anything that you've encountered in social work, and lots of stuff you haven't. That's what could be on the exam. What actually shows up on the exam is not everything in the world. It's narrower, simpler, and easier to prepare for, and we'll talk about that in a minute. What the ASWB is charged with is making sure that people who carry these licenses are compassionate, ethical, law-abiding professionals, right? So textbook pros. And the word textbook will come up a few times in this quick video because they're really testing that you know the letter of the law, not what it actually is like on the ground, but what it should be like. And they're also trying to weed out people who just don't know the social work basics. Does this end up with a lot of non-passes from people who are very competent social workers? Absolutely. A lot of people struggle with this exam. Only 70% or thereabouts pass it at a time. But let's figure out how you get to this pass. So when you do pass, you get one of these sheets. It's a picture you take that confirms that it's you. Caitlin passed not that long ago in North Carolina. Here's a DC clinical pass. There's one in Texas for the master's exam. Those are also short test prep users. Thought I'd put them in the slideshow just so you have something that you're aiming for. You want to be smiling with a pass sheet very soon. All right, so how do you get to that? How do you get through this exam? Here are some basic guidelines. Remember that doing no harm and operating within the scope of social work practice is essential. So what's the scope of practice? Well, it's all outlined in the NSW Code of Ethics. The Code of Ethics is the essential text for exam prep. Even questions that aren't necessarily ethics-based are informed lots of times by the contents of that code. The code's not very long. Read it again, Read it with one eye, read it with the other, read it backwards. Know that code of ethics. That's your biggest help in passing this exam. And here's what I was saying earlier. What would a by the book perfect social worker do in this situation? That's something to ask yourself as you face every new question. Your real life experience will help you, but the textbook is really what you want to be leaning on. Think like an unjaded, optimistic, can-do social worker. You can refer to services, even if in the real world you know those services are not likely to help. The idea is you're supposed to, they should work, right? So keep that in mind. There tend not to be tricks. They're not looking to get you on these exam questions. If an answer seems obvious, it's probably because you know the material, and just move forward. Don't second guess it. And an impossibly convoluted seeming question might be a tester and isn't quite ready for prime time and won't make it onto the exam as a scored item. So you'll see a lot of first thing a social worker should do, best thing a social worker should do in a given situation. It's not a trick. It's really based on the best social work practices. What are you supposed to do? Remember, again, as you look at the content outline or as you're taking practice tests, the test writers understand that you are in most likelihood a beginning social worker. The test is assessing beginning social work skills. So exotic and unfamiliar answers are often things that can be eliminated. If you haven't encountered it ever in any of your studying, in any of your practice, and it's an offered answer, maybe that's not the correct answer. Here's what I was saying: the best intervention, most likely diagnosis. That's a simple, straightforward question. The big capital letters don't really mean very much. How do you apply all this? The best way to prepare is to practice. And we've got a bunch of videos posted with practice questions, but the really most helpful way to know that you're ready for the exam and to burn off whatever test anxiety you have going in is to take full 4-hour, 170 question exams. Feel what it's like to sit down in a chair and go question after question after question. It can be exhausting. It can be triggering. The contents of these questions are often kind of unpleasant, but you just have to plow through. You sort of learn whether you need, if you're someone who needs to, hop out real fast and have a snack, if you need to stretch, if you need to breathe. You've got about 1.5 minutes per question, so you need to be able to go pretty quickly. A lot of this is reading comprehension, just reading carefully. What's this question asking for? What are the answers provided? How do I narrow it down? But listen, you've made it this far. If you're taking this exam, you've gotten through lots and lots of hoops, all the way through all that school, all the way through whatever internship hours were required of you. And this is something that you can do. This is not going to be the hardest test you've ever faced, and certainly not the hardest thing you've ever faced in your life. So you can get this done, and then you'll join, hopefully, all those people we saw earlier. And here's some more SWTP happy pass sheet holders. Really hope that these videos are helpful for you, and that you'll send us one of these pictures after you've passed the exam. So head over to socialworktestprep.com, take a look at the offerings there. Lots of practice questions, including the full-length exams, which are really hugely helpful. So good luck. Let us know how it goes. Take care.